Guys, it's your girl Champagne Melanin, and I'm back with you for another video. Yes, I'm back. So today we're going to be talking about Cuba tips. Yes, you heard me right, Cuba tips. I've got my trusty notes right here on my phone, so we can just get started and jump right into it. So found that on my trip, after I took my trip, there were a lot of people that had questions about how I traveled to Cuba and all of that. So I had some useful information that I thought I would include in this video. Right, the number one thing is cards, credit cards. The first thing, your US credit cards do not work in Cuba. I repeat, your US credit cards do not work in Cuba. I learned the hard way, so I'm trying to save you some trouble. The best thing for you to do is to bring cash. And that's going to be my next point, one of my next points when we get further on in the video. So what I mean by this, that your US credit cards don't work. So one of the names that you'll be hearing quite often in this video is embargo. Right, and I'll touch on that on another point. But when I say that your US credit cards don't work, I mean that if you have a bank outside of the US, say for instance, I'm Jamaican, you have a Jamaican bank account, yes, you're able to use that, it will be accepted. For me, in my case, I use my US credit card to book the reservation, but when I reached to the hotel, I was unable to book the rest of my stay. Right, and that's something I had to learn the hard way. One of the things that we must understand is that because of what's going on in Cuba, your cards are not gonna work. Your US cards are not gonna work. So make sure you have enough cash that you think you might need beforehand, so that whenever you get there, if you have any issues, then you can go ahead and use your cash for any type of purchases or anything that you may need. Okay, just bear in mind your US credit cards do not work. So I stayed at an international hotel. I thought that because I stayed in a touristy area, that would have meant that the rule of my card not working, I would be able to bypass that. And boy, was I wrong. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time. So when you're planning a trip, you need to know that your US credit card or cards will not work. Mosquito repellent. You need to have mosquito repellent when thinking of going to Cuba. When the dust settles, the mosquitoes come out, and trust me, they will have a feast on you. The one that I recommend is Deep Woods. That's the one that really works for me, and I like to think of it as something that you utilize when you're deep in the Everglades or something, when you have all of these different strains of mosquitoes. So like I said, make sure you have mosquito repellent. That's number one. Number two, water. Do not drink the water from the tap. It is not safe. You will get sick. You won't be able to enjoy the rest of your trip. Like, you don't want to be sick and having to go to the doctor. So my recommendation for you is, if you can check a bag with your bottled water, then that would be a good tip. But you can also ask the hotel staff for bottled water. Let them know that's what you need, that's what you drink, and trust me, they'll be more than happy to assist you with that. The plugs that they have, you may find it difficult for your phone chargers, anything that you might need to plug in to work. So what you're gonna need is a universal power adapter. I will place the link in the description of the universal power adapter that I use. Also, it's the next thing that you will need. Number 4 is your tourist visa. Wait. What are you saying? Why isn't this number one? Well, at the time of booking, you do not need to have your tourist visa at the time of booking your ticket. Now, the best way or more convenient way for that I can suggest for you to go and get your tourist visa when traveling to Cuba is when you get to the airport, you purchase it from the counter at the ticketing agent. So when you go in to go through the necessary steps for your flight, check in or check your bags, they will offer you, or you can let them know, hey, I want to purchase a tourist visa. The tourist visa costs at the moment $50 US. So I don't know what the cost is when you're traveling from other countries, but I know because my travel was started from in the US, I know that we had to pay $50 each. Also an immigration form, like when you prior to your check-in online, there's an immigration form that you need to fill out with your information, you know, regular things that they would ask you are on that form. Now, there's also something else that you need to know. When you purchase your ticket or when you go to book your flight, this is before all the steps actually. When you go to book your flight, there will be a lot of questions that ask you about your purpose or your intent of you know, why are you traveling to Cuba essentially, and what you do need to indicate. I repeat, what you do need to indicate for every question that asks you about that is that you're traveling in support of the Cuban people. Did you hear me? I am traveling in support of the Cuban people. That's the only indication that you should make on your form when filling it out to travel to Cuba, right? And this comes up when you've booked your flight. These questions come up through the JetBlue, because I use JetBlue as my point of travel when I was heading to that country or island, and that's how it happened. They ask you in the app, what was your purpose of traveling, if you're a diplomat, if you're all of these questions. Make sure to indicate that you're traveling in support of the Cuban people. I can't stress this enough. Okay, the next thing that you need to know when traveling to Cuba, if you have medication that you need, Pepto-Bismol, things for nausea, like in my case, I have motion sickness, so I need things like Zofran, you know, things that help to soothe my stomach. It is best that you pack these things because it will be very difficult for you to get these things on the island. And the next reason, or the next thing that you should know is this is leading to my next point. So the reason why it's hard for you to get stuff like Tanadol, painkillers, aspirin, anything that you need, is because there's actually an embargo that is taking place. Because of this embargo, it prevents them from having readily available things such as repellent or sanitary napkins, things like that. So my advice to you is to bring all the things that you think you need, whether it be ketchup, cough drops, cough syrup, everything. Pack everything that you think you may need on this trip. All right, my next point is you should go with an open mind. So yes, it's gonna be different from what you're used to in America, and like even in Jamaica, because I find that our standards are very different. For instance, my next point I'm bringing you to is that they do have a lot of flies, and this is no disrespect to my Cuban people. I love them. They're so great. They're hardworking. They're hospitable, but flies are a problem. Flies are a problem. So, you should have an open mind. These are proud people. These are hardworking people. However, they don't have the resources sometimes that, may help to completely eradicate these flies. right? So they can be a nuisance if you ask me. And the next step I'm gonna talk about is actually taxis. So taxis are readily available at the airport for you if you need to. My best advice on that is to make arrangements with your hotel staff so that whenever you get to the airport, you will have a ride arranged, and I think it's just more comforting when you come from another country. It's one less thing to worry about. You want to have that peace of mind. So my advice, yes, you can get taxis at the airport. I recommend that. It's a safe place from my experience. A lot of the persons that are operating taxis are doctors or from different professions, because no one is above anyone in that country. So I believe it's very safe. But for your peace of mind, make sure to make that arrangement before time. So for us, I didn't want to leave my travel to chance, because we were traveling to Varadero, which is like a 2.5-hour drive. So we didn't want to just get to the airport, bam, jump on a taxi and just call it a day. No. So we made the arrangements before, and that's just my advice to you, that it may help you to do that ahead of time. So my next step is when it comes on to the money and the currency. So when it comes on to the money, the type of money that they use there is called Cuban pesos, otherwise known as coup. So whenever you're going to a country, you typically want to exchange some dollars so that you can be able to spend it, right, and get best value for your money. Well, as it stands today, $1 is worth $25.75 for coup, right? So $1, let me repeat, $1 will give you $25.75. It takes, no, that's right. So $1 would give you $25.75 in coup, right? So what it's showing you is that the dollar doesn't value much. So because of that, it will go a long way. And it's tempting to have it changed, but bear in mind that whenever you change the currency to the coup, you cannot change it back to the US dollars. So I recommend using currencies such as US dollars. Yes, they do take those. They do take the US dollars. Canadian and the pound. I find that when I was comparing the US dollars and the Canadian, I got more money, value for my money when I used the US dollars. For instance, if something costs $30 US dollars, that's the amount I pay. But for like Canadian, it would have been about 40 Canadian dollars, right? So you end up spending more. So that's my advice to you, right? Also, I just want to let you guys know, whenever you go there, the people, they're very friendly. They're, like I said, they're hardworking, and they're very hospitable. So there's nothing to be afraid of. And which brings me to my next point. I believe that this country is a very safe country. So you can let your hair down for the most part. Like, you have to take the necessary precautions, as you would anywhere else in the world. So that's my advice to you. And like I said, just go to the island, enjoy yourself, let your socks down, and just enjoy, because it's a wonderful, beautiful place, beautiful culture, to experience, and it is an experience indeed. So do I recommend traveling to Cuba? Yes. It might even bring you back with a greater appreciation for where you live. If you live in the US or even in Jamaica, it will bring you back with a greater appreciation for what you've had and what you've been exposed to. So guys, this is where I'm gonna end my video, and it's your girl Champagne Melanin once again, and I've come to you today to give you some tips on traveling to Cuba. I hope this will be very useful to you, If there's anything that you need to know or you want to ask me, drop a comment. I'll be more than happy to assist you. Champagners out.